This is Father Sebastiaan, Master Fangsmith of the Sabretooth clan and Impresario of the Endless Night Vampire Ball. And you're listening to Hollywood Arcane, Vampire Culture, Music, and Magic, with your special guest host, JoHanna Moresco of the Cruise Shadows. Hey, yo.
How's it going?
Good. Welcome to our first co-produced Hollywood Arcane episode, Season 3.
How exciting.
And today we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the vampire world and gothic world. So what is going on with you lately?
Oh, you know what? I will have to grab one so I can show you, but I just announced a really cool charity collaboration that I'm doing with the Luby Bat Conservancy here in Florida.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a super cute product that benefits the work that they do. One moment. Boop, 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 boop.
Oh, bat mug.
Yeah.
Cool.
I remember
Great.
I showed you this when I was working on it, but they just launched on my website about an hour ago. So
Cool.
that's exciting. A portion of each sale benefits the Luby Bat Conservancy. So that's what
awesome.
I've been up to. Thank you.
So we've got the Tampa Vampire Ball coming up. Endless Night Tampa Vampire Ball. What do we have who do we have performing?
Can we say? Is it time?
Yeah, it's time. Let's do it.
Roll. We have on the main stage, beginning the acts, Zaria Janelle, who is a very talented burlesque performer from Jacksonville.
Okay.
Then we have our dear fiery friend, Dani Divine.
Let's hope she doesn't set the stage on fire again.
That actually happened.
Remember, oh my God, that was crazy.
Oh man, should we talk about that?
Absolutely. Dani would love it.
Okay, so I remember announcing her, and I think that this was before this is when I was still trying to find the balance between beautiful glamorous outfits for the vampire ball that were also functional, right? So I had this long, beautiful, very tight mermaid gown on, and I couldn't move in it very well. So I announced her, and I somehow managed to sort of sit on the side of the stage, and I'm sort of just trapped, right? And it was a tiny fire. It was very, very small. Very small. But you had to put it out because I couldn't move in my dress.
Yeah, Dani was like, we told Dani no fire, and she was like, oh, candles are okay. And
no, it was smoke bombs, remember?
Oh yeah, that was right.
She had these like little trays with these smoke bombs, and she spun around in a very elegant, magical way, and the smoke went through the air, and it was very captivating. And she sat the things down, thinking they would just kind of smoke and fizzle out, but somehow I watched this thing on its own catch on fire.
It just combusted?
A little, a gentle combustion, yeah. I think I like tugged at you. I was like, Sebastiaan, and you had to run out in the middle of her act and kind of
Stomp on the fire.
Yeah.
Do you remember when she did the show at Bar Sinister for the last LA Vampire Ball? Yeah. She was lighting her pasties on fire, and I was sitting there because she was facing she turned around at her show at Bar Sinister, and I was in the throne, and she was like literally trying to light her pasties on fire, and I was like, oh my God, Dani, you and fire.
One thing that you really got to give it to Dani is she really pushes the limits with her performances. She is always trying to outdo herself, because I've now seen her perform several times, and I notice each time she is looking for a way to make it more exciting, to up the game a bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, lighting your pasties on fire is definitely one way to do that.
Well, her costumes are her strength.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Has their
So we're excited to welcome her back to the Tampa stage.
Yeah, she hasn't been there since 2019.
Yeah, wow.
We've done, how many vampire balls did we miss during the pandemic in Tampa?
Just one.
Just one? Okay.
Pretty sure just one, yeah. And
Cool.
we made it up even. Didn't we do 2 in 1 year or
We
something like
did 2 in like 6 months.
Yeah.
We did the one right after Halloween, the makeup one,
Mhm.
and, everybody was like in Florida was like, "Well, California's in lockdown." Floridians were like, come back to California, you guys are in lockdown." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "You guys aren't vaccinated, ah!"
You know,
And
we're doing our thing over here.
yeah, Florida man.
But everything's open now. We're all,
I know.
yeah. We're all
So
Florida man now.
I have a Florida driver's license still.
I know.
So I
Okay,
guess
so
I'm Florida
Zaria
man, but in
Janelle,
California.
yeah, Zaria Janelle, Danny Devine,
What? Oh,
and
Dan Sperry? He
yes,
just moved to Florida.
I know he's Florida man now.
He's Florida man, totally Florida man. And,
It's been a
we have the
bit of
best
a
dress contest,
yes,
and we have our fabulous airless, the Jasmine and Rose.
yes, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna have a really good time. So, for years, a lot of people don't know what a halo is.
Mhm.
Okay, actually, maybe we should read the halo of Black Veil.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, and an egregore is a collective consciousness of an area,
Right.
and since 1997, um, we've called it Lightning Bay because of the lightning in the bay.
Mhm.
And what a prime halo is a halo that has been consecrated by the Sabretooth clan. The halos are an original thing from the Sabretooth clan. In 1995, Victor Magnus and I were looking for an alternative concept to vampire courts, which got all political.
Right.
And we wanted to let them do their own business. So we came up with designations for a city called a halo. And let's read that
Yes.
Black Veil.
I don't see a black veil on halos. What I do have is veils on individual halos, like
Read the
Gotham.
introduction of the chapter.
Okay. Begin at the beginning, you say?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there is an introduction. That's why you wrote this and not me. All right, so I am reading from Black Veil's Master Vampire Edition 888, written by Father Sebastiaan here, of course. Chapter 5, Halos. A halo is an egregore, which is a thought form or energy signature that is comprised of the accumulated energy of history and interactions of Black Veil's vampire culture within a geographic area. This energy is combined with the mundane culture, history, and character of a location to give each halo its uniqueness. The term and concept of a halo was coined in 2004 in Amsterdam by Crystal Fang and Father Sebastiaan. It is used to describe those already existing locational energy signatures and to serve as an alternative to quartz. Halos originated as a Sabretooth clan tradition, and prime halos are officially consecrated by Father Sebastiaan. The communities of vampires and other awakened that live within halos evolve, grow, or diminish according to the collective actions of the current and family.
Thank you, Anna. Let's not confuse a court and a halo. Let's keep them two separate identities. It's like a halo is a nickname for a city or an area and the energy around it. So the prime halos are the ones that I consecrated personally, and rituals for that are actually very secret. There's actual secret series of rituals that are only known to the Ordo Strigoi, and we don't share them. But if people want to create their own halos, they have, but they're not prime halos. They're a halo that is outside the prime category.
Mhm.
Okay, so the prime halos are like Lutetia, Angel Halo, uh, Gotham Halo, Witch City Halo, Hydra Halo, and so on and so on. So you can see the list of the prime halos in the Black Veils. Yo, who's our guest today?
Sean Wilde.
I hear he's a sin eater.
What is that?
I don't know. Why don't we ask him?
Great idea.
So let's bring Sean on.
Hello.
Hey, Sean, how you doing today?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the author with Magic Without Tools. So I've written a book about using magic without any tools whatsoever. It's a big belief of mine that we should be able to do that without any additional things coming in. I am the world's only publicly verified traditional sin eater. Hopefully there will be more. I'm actually teaching a class on it this week. And I've taught one other one, so I'm slowly but surely training other sin eaters, but they haven't actually done the ritual yet. So I do that. I own an occult shop here in New Orleans. So I live in New Orleans most of the time and back in Canada part of the time. And here in New Orleans, I own an occult shop in the French Quarter called Sassy Magic. And I have a business partner for that. So we have a totally new twist on an occult shop where it's a mixture of American Horror Story Coven meets The Craft meets Hello Kitty. So it's glittery and pink with a disco ball, but also really serious too at the same time. So, and that's kind of how I treat my magic. I take it really, really seriously, but I also like to have fun and be a little bit silly and make sure that I don't get too caught up in ego and that anybody that I teach doesn't get too caught up in ego. So I'd be kind of me in a nutshell. I'm a trained theurgist as well. So I'm a member of the Orum Solis and I'm also a Cabot priest. So I've been directly trained by Laurie Cabot in the first 2 degrees of Cabot witchcraft.
Oh, wow. And were you in Salem for that?
No, she did it over Zoom because she adapted because of the pandemic. So a bunch of us were on Zoom with her, and she trained us back in 2021. So
Great. What's she like?
she's amazing. She's really, really gracious, really, really kind, really, really patient. Um, yeah, it was. I thought it might be intimidating getting taught by her, but it was just incredible. It was just incredible being taught by her and having her in the virtual room with us. And when we were being tested, some people actually had her in the room where it's just like 2 or 3 of them and her. So that was pretty cool experience for them. I didn't get that experience, but some of them did. So it was pretty incredible. But yeah, she's absolutely wonderful. I obviously don't know her well, only met her over the Zoom, but everything that I saw was incredible.
I've been in her shop a couple times in Salem. I can't remember the name, but it's down by the docks.
It's the purple one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I remember the name. But I don't want to I don't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong name and say another shop.
But it's a very cool shop.
It
You
is very cool.
definitely don't forget going in there.
Yes.
No, the energy is very wild, Sean.
And Penny, her and Penny, her daughter, makes incredible wands for the shop as well. Penny Cabot makes some incredible wands for that shop as well. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty.
I actually met her in the shop, I think. She came
Nice.
in and was like talking to the employees, and I said, "Hi, I'm Father Sebastiaan. How you doing?" And she was really nice. And they have their own thing going. They have their own tradition of witchcraft.
Mhm.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that tradition?
Ooh, I am not qualified to teach it. So
Okay.
what I will say is that always refer back to what Laurie Cabot's teachings are. There's some pretty traditional things in there. The belief in the law of threefold, things like that. One of the main thing that differentiates the Cabot tradition from my experience, and again, I'm not qualified to teach it, but I'll share my experience and views based on what I've been taught, is just that the Cabot tradition is a sovereign tradition. So sovereignty is very, very important, and to make sure that essentially that the tradition stands on its own without influence from other traditions or other traditions kind of getting involved with it. And that's one of my big takeaways from that tradition, is that it's very, very sovereign. Doesn't mean other traditions aren't. It's just that's at the forefront of what's one of my big takeaways from the Cabot tradition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're an explorer of different traditions of magic.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Are you eclectic? Are you a chaos magician? Are you
Yeah, definitely not eclectic. Although some people sometimes interpret it that way. One person recently said it really well, and that is that I blend traditions. Not all of them. When I'm doing Cabot witchcraft, I'm actually very, very narrowly focused in terms of what I do, and it's only healing. So when I'm doing Cabot witchcraft, I only do healing within that tradition. That's all I do. I don't bring anything else into the tradition other than the healing that I was taught through Laurie or through Reverend Mother. Um, but I do blend. So when I am allowed to blend, and when it makes sense to blend, and I'm not violating any rules or regulations, that I blend a lot of things. And so, while I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a chaos magician, that would be a better description than an eclectic. And there
okay?
really isn't a term for a blended. I don't know, blended witch. That sounds like some sort of dinner thing. So I'm not sure what else it would be called. But yeah. So I blend. I do blend when I can, but I also keep some of the traditions separate because they need to be kept separate too for some of the workings.
It's so interesting following the history of witchcraft and the occult throughout the evolution of things, from the Order Templis Orientis to the Order Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Mhm.
And I just heard a story about the Golden Dawn, but I'm going to reserve that for another time.
Well, now I'm so
Um,
curious.
well, I'll tell you off camera because I don't know if it's true.
All right,
Um,
sounds good.
so one of the things is, I mean, we knew each other from the vampire community from the 90s and the
Yes.
Oubliettes.
Yes.
So we met at a couple different vampire events and stuff like that. What's your perspective on vampirism?
Oh my God. That'd be a long one. We could do a whole podcast or interview just on that, and maybe that's for another show. But I mean, in short, um, I believe there's different types of vampires out there. So there's obviously the whole vampire current that your group represents and that you teach and that you're doing, and definitely valid form of vampirism. I think there's entities out there that are essentially vampires, that take in energy. I think a lot of the time, though, we confuse vampirism with vampiric behavior. So there's a lot of vampiric entities out there that can take energy, but they're not necessarily vampires by my definition. And a lot of people can be vampiric. So it's kind of emotionally draining people. They're vampiric, but I wouldn't consider them vampires. I tend to differentiate. The way that I normally differentiate, but it doesn't fit all forms of it, is I look at it whether or not the individual inherently needs to cycle energy. So my take on vampirism is a little bit different than a lot of people's. A lot of people think that psi vampires or psychic vampires, they take energy because they need it, and that's it. It's a one-way street. But my interpretation of vampirism is that it's a cycle. They're actually cycling energy. That it might be not a 100% give and take in terms of being equal, but there is a cycling of energy between the vampire and the person that they're taking the energy from, that they're giving something back. So they're kind of like taking what they need and then giving their waste energy, if you will, back to the person, but that waste energy isn't back for them. So I consider vampirism to be more about kind of an inherent need to do that cycling, as opposed to the ability to do it, or temporary vampirism, like a baby. They're very vampiric, but they're not permanently a vampire. Or somebody who's really, really ill, they'll take energy, but they're not permanently like that. So I tend to differentiate it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be very in a nutshell, though. And I associate it a lot with spiritual immortality too, where vampires will constantly reincarnate and typically will remember their past lives better than other people, but not always.
Yeah, I mean, we've had long discussions about it and stuff like that. So I found it to be really, really cool to have those discussions. So we reunited
Yeah.
at Sassy Magic on my birthday weekend this last January, and I was like, you know, I was like, was like really impressed about how far you've come since we've last got to know each other back in 2003, 2004. And it was like when you rattled off all your initiations, I was like, man, this guy's been doing his work.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But then it's really cool to reconnect with you too, because we don't agree on everything, but we overlap so much. I find it really, really fascinating to see where we overlap, and then just even how we use different terms, but we're talking about the same thing. And I always find that fascinating. So yeah, it was super cool to run into you on your birthday. I'm glad your friends brought you to the shop, and yeah, we ended up talking for hours that weekend, just around the city or around New Orleans.
My friend Josh came to me and he said, there's this shop called Sassy Magic, and it's got the best occult library in New Orleans. And when I went to see your shop, I was like, this looks like Hello Kitty made a occult shop. And I was like, and when I was talking to you, I was like, of course it's a Canadian that comes up with this.
Yeah, and I mean the library, as I call it, and then our oracle and tarot collection. That was the major focus of the seriousness of it, where people could come in and they're like, oh wait a second, okay, this is super serious, and we do. We easily have one of the top two book and oracle and tarot selections in the state of Louisiana, easily top two. I won't argue if we're number one or not. Some people say we are. I'm content with being in top two, and I just leave it at that. So there's another shop in the city that's got a great selection too. But yeah, that was really important to me. It was really super important to me that we had that, and that we cater to a lot of locals that are looking for hard to find books that we carry. So that's been amazing too.
What's really cool is the care that's been selected and putting it. You have definitely the best section of occult books
Thank
for
you.
vampirism.
Yes. Yep.
and that's pretty clear. So let me read your bio while you're here.
Sure.
Okay, I got to put my glasses on. I'm an old vampire. I'm 480 years old. Bishop Sean Wilde, UE, is the author of Magic Without Tools. He is a Calbit priest and member of the Aurum Solis. He is the only publicly verified traditional sin eater in the world. His spiritual magical journey began at the age of 4 with a haunting in his childhood home. His first public speaking engagement was at the age of 11. Wow. Okay, and he has spoken on Canadian and the United States at conferences, festivals, universities, and secondary schools. Trained at university in anthropology, philosophy, religion, and culture. His post-secondary background introduced Sean to a variety of traditions, faiths, and systems of thought. Throughout his journey, he's been a professional psychic, ghost hunter, and Magic Without Tools teacher, and co-authored and published the training manual for Western magical tradition in Ontario, and is advised on books about living vampires, exploring magic both in the spirit of anthropological participant observation, as well as an initiate in different traditions, giving him a often unique perspective in the spiritual world. He is his collective training, schooling, participation, and discussion ranging from healing modalities, a Western mystery school, Roman Catholic healing masses, countless rituals of various traditions, and an even training in spirituality. The Opus Dei informs his magic. So,
Opus Dei is pretty cool.
Okay, so you have the title of bishop. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I've kept it pretty quiet. So I guess this is me kind of coming out of, I don't know what closet it would be about that. Somebody else has recently found out too. So a very, very long time ago, more than almost 15 years ago, I started exploring Christianity and found certain things that I found were quite fascinating, and the magic's in that. That's when I got involved with Opus Dei, and so I was very active in the Roman Catholic Church for a number of years. To the point, going to mass daily and doing a lot of work with Opus Dei. I wasn't a member of Opus Dei, but I was working with them, and found it all very, very fascinating. I was able to reconcile a lot of the magical practices that I do with that, and that took years of research. And people said, "Oh, you'd always make a great pastor," and that sort of thing. But of course, as a Roman Catholic, that's just not possible if you're married, and I'm married. So just resigned myself to just being a lay person and working through stuff, and then fell away from the church for various reasons. And but still really, really liked Catholicism, what I call small C Catholicism. So not Roman Catholic Catholicism, but Catholicism. And it was always a dream to be part of the apostolic succession, where you would be ordained and consecrated as a bishop with a direct lineage back to Christ, because that's what the Roman Catholics have. They have that, they trace it all the way back to St. Peter and then to Christ. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Eastern Orthodox Church and other churches have that apostolic succession as well. It's just not talked about as much. So I found a Catholic bishop that had those other forms of succession, and chatted with them, and they agreed to consecrate me. And so I was actually consecrated into the Catholic Church, small c, back in July of 2022. So I am a Catholic bishop through multiple apostolic lines, actually.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a realization, honestly, of a 15-year dream. I really, really wanted it. And so I'm glad. It's been pretty cool. I'm still reeling from it. It's still almost not real to me. So that's why I'm shy about using the term, because I tend to be pretty humble and quiet about it. But I need to start using it more and start talking more about it. So here we are.
Great. That sounds phenomenal. So you've got you've been busy since we last saw each other.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh my God. So you're Canadian.
Yeah.
And what brought you to the States?
New Orleans. So back in 2017, I saw an advertisement for a festival, and one of my friends here in Canada was speaking at it. I thought, well, if he's speaking at it, it must be all right. And I'd always wanted to visit New Orleans, and my wife always wanted to visit New Orleans. And so we got a ticket and went down and fell in love with the city, and thought, well, we haven't been anywhere in a while, so let's just see what it's like next year. And so in 2018, we went again. Still in love with the city, and then we started coming down to New Orleans multiple times a year until in 2019 we were actually there 4 times, And then in 2020, we were going to move down there at least part of the time. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So that scuttled that. But then in October of 2021, we moved down here for about 6 months of the year. Said we were working snowbirds and just loved it. And now we're here more than 6 months of the year. How much each year still remains to be seen. 2023 is kind of our guinea pig year between the shop and still doing business in Canada. But yeah, brought us to the States was honestly New Orleans. We'd be wherever New Orleans would be. That is where we would be. We absolutely love this city.
Yeah, and I love going there and just walking through the streets and seeing all the different shops. So now Lower Decatur is where your shop is?
Yeah, so we're kind of quasi calling it Witch Alley because there's actually 5 of us now. There's 5 shops now, all within 2 blocks of each other on Lower Decatur. So we're right near the French Market and the Jazz Museum, and there's 5 of us. So it's pretty awesome. It's the whole community in New Orleans is very magical in general, and the city is very magical. But that area, especially now in terms of shops, is becoming a concentrated area, which is super cool.
That's great. So how many occult shops are in New Orleans?
Oh my goodness. 5. There's at least 12 of us that I can think of off the top of my head. Most of them are in the French Quarter, but there's one in Metairie, there's one in Uptown, there's one on the West Bank. The West Bank is over this giant bridge. It's terrifying to cross.
Oh, yeah, I've been over there. I visited some friends over there, and it was horrible.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But yeah, so there's at least 12 of us. Yeah, at least 12. So there's quite a number.
And what inspired Sassy Magic?
Well, in terms of owning an occult shop, I've always wanted to own an occult shop since I was a teenager. So that was a realization of a multi-decade dream. And then since 2017, I'd say that was when the dream shifted from not just owning one, but owning one in the French Quarter. In terms of what inspired Sassy Magic, we were trying to come up with a name. And we're like, Chic Magic or Chic Occult. And then we thought that might sound too much like Shaka Khan or something like that if we said it too quickly. And so I said, what about Sassy? And my business partner was like, oh, I don't know, that sounds weird. And then when we combined it with Sassy Magic, we're like, that kind of works. And then from there, we just wanted to be a little bit, sassy, but also just a little bit different than everybody else. And we thought, okay, so how can we be different? And that's when the idea of one person described to my business partner as a cupcake with razor blades. And that does describe her quite accurately. so we're like, well, let's make an occult shop like that, where it's a cupcake, so pink and glittery and fun, and Hello Kitty. We actually have Hello Kitty enamel pins. But also there's the razor blades in terms of like the serious magic and that sort of thing. And that's what we did. So that's kind of what inspired it. We wanted to be different. We wanted a different take. We also wanted to be more inviting. There's nothing wrong with the other things that the other occult shops are doing. They have their vibe and their needed vibes. However, we thought there was a vibe that was needed where it felt very safe to walk into the shop. And you could be somebody who wasn't a practitioner and feel safe and not feel goofy or dumb about walking in and not feel intimidated. And that's what we wanted. There's other shops that cater to other vibes, and that's great. We wanted to cater to that sort of vibe. And that's a lot of the feedback we've gotten, is that the shop has a really lovely energy, or it's so inviting, or that is less intimidating. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to kind of fill that niche, and that niche was really needed, I think, in general in our world, let alone in New Orleans. So it's been working out well for us. It's been going really well.
Great. And when did you open again?
October of 2022. So we opened just before the Endless Nights Ball that happens here in New Orleans, just about a week before.
And you're the newest occult shop in New Orleans?
Thinking here, I believe we are. They spring up.
The Hello Kitty vibe definitely makes it a lot easier to go in and check it out.
Yes.
I mean, it's very inviting. Other shops have like clocks and brooms and witchy stuff in the windows. Yours has very open doors, and the pink and the sassiness, just like it really is cool. And when Josh told me about it, and he said, there's this guy named Sean Wilde that's running the shop. I'm like, do I know him? But I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I got to see you, because I knew you by a different name back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, it was so cool to see you when you walked in. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, my whole team. So what is, besides the occult library you have, which is very, very good, you have your vampire section is excellent. What other traditions come into the store and will find a good occult library?
Yeah, absolutely. So for sure, we have the best chaos magic section that you're going to find.
Okay.
I won't say anywhere, but I feel comfortable saying probably in the Southeast US, maybe sort of. We don't just have the typical Liber Null and condensed chaos, which of course we have, but we've got some other more obscure things where other people have written specifically about servitors and defense and attack and the kind of things you used to find online in the late 90s, early 2000s. We have books on that. I've never seen them anywhere in any other occult shop. So that's definitely something that's really different. We also have a whole theurgy section, because how could I not as a theurgist? So we have things by, Iamblichus, we have Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. We have the Grandmaster's book, Rediscovering the Gods and Goddesses. So the Grandmaster Bjorn Solis, he wrote that. He wrote a book on auras as well, so we have that as well. Not theurgy per se, but it's his teachings. Prayer beads, he wrote a book on prayer beads, so we have that. Anything else kind of to do with theurgy, we have. So a lot of hermetics as well. Hermetics you can find in other occult shops too, but we have that kind of whole vibe going on. So we have that. A lot of the other stuff that you will find, everybody's carrying Raymond Buckland's, complete book of witchcraft. That's all pretty normal, stuff like that. The other thing that would differentiate us is that we also have a whole queer magic section. So we have a whole thing about queer magic and Kabbalah and that sort of thing. And then we have an activist section too. So a whole section on activism. So how magic can be applied to activism. So we're quiet about it. We're also an activist occult shop as well. So we have that, which differentiates us as well.
Now, tell us about your book, Magic Without Tools.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a culmination of something I'd wanted to put pen to paper for a long, long time. And what happened was in 2017, I said, I'm going to start writing this book, and it's going to be Magic Without Tools. And so I was writing it actually at a local restaurant called Muriel's. And Muriel's has this incredible seance room. It looks like a 1920s Victorian apartment from England, and it's all red and crimson with Egyptian sarcophagi. And I would just write there for hours at a time. And then after a couple of years, I'm like, this is taking me too long because I'm not in New Orleans enough. I was only writing in New Orleans. So then I really buckled down, found a publisher, and just started churning out the book. And so it was published in October of last year. So it came out basically right around when we started the shop. So there's a lot going on in October of last year. And the basic premise is that we can be the energy focus or the energy center for our magic. So we don't need tools. We don't need a knife. We don't need a sword. We don't need chalk. We don't need herbs. We can do the magic ourselves. And so a lot of experienced practitioners will start off with tools, and then they migrate to not using them a lot of the time, unless the tradition calls for it. What I was trying to do, what I'm still trying to do, is show people start without tools, become a powerhouse yourself, then learn how to use the tools for the system that you want to work in, and then again go back to not using them if that's what you want to do. So that was part of the book. The other part was, much like the shop, making magic more accessible to people. I'm a firm believer that general magic, or what I call, it's a loaded term, it's not the best term, but pure magic, if you will, in the sense of not using a tool, it's our birthright. As human beings, it's our birthright. Everybody has the right to this form of magic. It's not, and this type of magic specifically isn't initiatory. It doesn't matter what country you're from, what language you speak, it doesn't matter whatever it is that you are, it's accessible to everyone. And so it's really important that this type of magic be taught to people, because it's theirs. It's basically reteaching something that they've already forgotten, in my opinion. So that's kind of the basic premise of Magic Without Tools, is reintroducing something that I think a lot of people have lost, or a lot of people have forgotten, and showing them again that they can be powerful on their own. Yeah.
And you're under Christian Days imprint.
Yeah, so yeah, Warlock Press. Yeah, I looked at it and debated, where I wanted to go, and I was a little bit tickled at the idea of it being called Warlock Press, because of some of those connotations, and what Christian fights against with that term, and also Christian being Christian, what he fights against sometimes. And also I wanted to support my friends. Christian and Brian are friends of mine, and so I wanted to support them. Just as they wanted to support me. It's definitely a two-way street, and I really like the idea of being published by a New Orleans publisher. I wanted that to happen because I'm hoping, 100 years from now, when people are hopefully still reading my book, they'll be like, oh, he got published in New Orleans. Why was that? And then they'll find, oh, the publisher was right down from a shop that he owned. Just be cool little Easter eggs for people to find, So I'm kind of planning ahead when I'm gone, impressions of people and what they'll find, and how they'll start connecting dots in terms of my interests and why things happened and things like that.
And what traditions does it pull from?
Ooh, So I am not, I want to be really clear on this because the two traditions I'm very public about are Cabinet Witchcraft and the Orm Solace. I am not teaching either of those in the book. Some people might find some overlap with some of the things, but I am not teaching either one. So there's nothing that's both bound that's in that book. There's no breach of any oaths. But there, so I want to make that clear first of all. So what I'm not teaching is Orm Solace Theurgy, and I'm not teaching Cabinet Witchcraft in it. Having said that, there is healing in it, and there is energy work that overlaps with some of what we do in the Orm Solace, certainly. So anybody who's involved in the Orm Solace or has seen some of the public books, like, oh, wait a second, that looks really familiar, and that would be a fair statement. So in terms of the traditions that pulls from, some of them I won't talk about because I'm still quiet about those traditions in terms of where they're from and what I do and what I'm part of. But part of it was a group that I fondly called the Group of Eight. And that was myself and seven other people experimenting with magic for a number of years. And we would just push the boundaries of our knowledge and our limits and our understandings of things. And we would experiment with it without tools. And we would see what worked and what didn't work. And we discovered a lot of things that didn't work and the few things that did. And the things that did, a number of those things are in the book. And that's why in my acknowledgements, I actually acknowledged the Group of Eight because they were a huge influence on the book in terms of all of the fun and funny things that we did. So that's not a tradition, but a lot of the inspiration is from there. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, we're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming on to the Hollywood Arcane podcast. It's
Thank
really
you.
great to connect with you and talk about some of the stuff that we've been talking about because it's hard to find magical peers out there in the world or people who have the same vibe. And it was really a pleasure to finally get in touch with you. Where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm Sean Wilde Author. And then I also have a website, which is seanwilde.ca because I am Canadian, so it's .ca.
Yeah,
And
California, right? Sure.
so on Instagram, yeah, that's probably the best way to follow me. But my website also has information about classes that I do, and then the website also has links to my Facebook page and Instagram and anything like that. It also has links to the Sin Eating website because of the Sin Eating that I do as well. So that's a separate website.
Cool. Thank you very much, Sean. It was a pleasure
Thank
having
you.
you. And
Thanks.
JoHanna and I are going to wrap up the show now.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, you two.
Rock and roll, man.
Pleasure meeting you.
So he was pretty interesting, wasn't he?
Yeah, very interesting.
You know, we both skittle around the occult world.
Mhm.
You know, your partner Cliff is very much a scholar of such things,
Yes.
and I love having conversations with him. And Sean is someone who I've been able to, you know, have conversations on the level that I talked to Cliff about.
I could tell that guy knows a lot of stuff.
But he knows different stuff that I'm
Yeah,
not used
absolutely.
to, and
Yeah.
I find that really cool.
Yeah.
So, what do we have going on with you besides bat
Bat
conservatory?
mugs, all kinds of new and exciting makeup things also on my website. And I can't announce who yet, but at my events in Jacksonville, I have some pretty cool bands coming through this year that I'm about to announce. So, yeah.
And we can find it all at JoHannaMoresco.com.
JoHannaMoresco.com. My 2 monthly goth night events that I put on, bands that I bring through because as a musician, I want to support other musicians and make music happen in the city that I live in. And that's important to me. So yeah, goth night, makeup, vampire stuff. Yeah, it's all
And we
good.
have, of course, February, May. The schedule for Endless Night is May 20th is the Tampa Vampire Ball.
Yes.
Then we have September 9th, Salem with Ben and
Yeah,
Lex. That's going to be really cool. And
I will
then
be there.
finally, we have the granddaddy of all vampire balls at the House of Blues Halloween weekend,
Yeah.
October 28th, with the Temple of the Dark Goddess.
I am really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Patty
Yeah.
and I are doing some classes on dark goddesses for Magic
Oh,
University, University Magicus, magicu.org.
yeah.
We have an iPhone and Android app coming out, and you'll be able to take the classes that view the classes that have already happened. So we're starting with Lilith, then we're going to do Hecate, Kali, and I believe Akasha. as a chaos magic
Okay.
spirit. And Keetra and the Morrigan and Hel and Celine and all that. We're going to do as many goddesses as we can between now and October to get everybody into it. And we also have a famous artist named Ricardo who's going to be doing 4 paper mache busts of Hecate, Lilith, Kali, and I'm not sure what our 4th goddess is going to be.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is set up the Temple of the Dark Goddess in the parish.
Oh, that's going to be so beautiful.
And we're going to launch a wedding chapel.
Aw.
So people who want to tie the knot are welcome to do that.
Lovely.
So I think it's time to call it a night.
Well, I enjoyed hanging out with you on this podcast.
Rock and roll. I'll see you next time, and thank you for joining me on this adventure, this vampire adventure.
Absolutely. See ya.